So today's video is going to be a little different. If you have stayed up to date with my channel, then you would know that I have made guides for Borderlands 1, 2 and 3 for the people who currently still play the game, but also for those I hope who will be drawn to the series after Borderlands 4 is announced. But today I wanted to make a brief discussion video talking about why the series is in its current state and why I'm worried that Borderlands 4 might fail, because as of right now I feel like the majority of the community have extremely low hopes. If this video does well, then I may consider going into more depth about some of the issues within the series. I do quickly want to clarify that this is all my opinion, so don't get mad at me for having a different opinion to yours. Also, please write your opinion and thoughts in the comments, as I want this video to bring the community together to share their different thoughts about the current state of the series. Firstly, let's talk about Borderlands 3. In my opinion, I really enjoyed Borderlands 3 on release, and even to this day I love the game. However, I would be very delusional if I said that the story was good. At best, I would say it's decent. A lot of the people who play Borderlands, I would assume, are primarily playing it for the gameplay and the loot system. I made a poll about this a few weeks back, and both of those things were in the top 2. However, there are still a lot of people who love the story and the characters within the series. And if Gearbox continue to go down the path that they are currently on, then they will destroy the series in that aspect. I think I speak for almost everyone when I say that Ava was one of the most disliked characters in the entire series. But for me, even Lilith was becoming unbearable to be around, as her character just began to become lackluster. Furthermore, we got some extremely disappointing villains. Troy and Tyreen are the most boring and unlikable antagonists in the series. Their motives were childish, their backstory was dull, and overall their personality was only a couple of siblings going on a rampage and streaming it. That could be funny if it wasn't dragged on for the whole game. I wanted a reason to not like them other than just being annoyed every time their face shows up on the screen. I could go on and on about Borderlands 3, but I think I got the main point across. The story has been left in a bad shape, and the characters are losing their personality, which I think will be quite difficult to pick up the pieces left from the damage Borderlands 3 story has caused. Of course, there are other things, such as too many legendaries dropping, mayhem levels, and non-dedicated drops at launch, but if I spoke about that, then the video would be an hour long. The next topic I will speak about is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I can't really speak on this from my own opinion, as I am still currently on my first playthrough. However, even though I haven't played the game much myself, I know that the game has had a negative impact on Borderlands. And for many people, this was the last nail in the coffin, so to speak, for the series. After doing some research, what I have gathered is that the main issues with Wonderlands is the lack of effort put into the endgame content, and because of this, the player has no real incentive to replay the game. The season pass for the game included something known as PLCs, or post-launch content, but basically the reason people disliked it so much is because of how short they were. From what I've read, this extra content that you are paying for is about 15 minutes each, which was obviously not received well by most or even all of the community. Now let's take a look at the more recent events of the franchise, the Borderlands movie. Don't worry, I'll get to new tales later. We can only judge the Borderlands movie from the trailer, as the film obviously hasn't came out yet. But in my opinion, this trailer just seems like a slap in the face to the people who've been playing the games for years. Firstly, $150 million has been spent on this movie, and by looking at the costume design and other things in the trailer, we can clearly tell that most of the budget has been spent on the casting. Kevin Hart, Cate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis are all great actors in their own right, but in my opinion none of them are a good casting choice for the characters that they are playing. The trailer on the Lionsgate YouTube channel as of 13th of March has 78,000 dislikes. This is both a good thing and a bad thing for the Borderlands series. This is bad because it could give the series even more of a reason to dislike it, which will cause even more fans to have no hope. The reason it could be good is because the backlash could potentially cause Gearbox to delay Borderlands 4, meaning more work can be put into it. Honestly, we will just have to wait and see if this movie is good or not, but it's safe to say that the fans of the Borderlands series are not the target audience for this movie. Now, New Tales from the Borderlands is the only game I haven't played in the series. This is simply because I'm not really interested in it, and I feel like most people aren't. This game did that bad on PC that the all-time peak for this game is only 399 players, which is genuinely embarrassing. As I said, I haven't played this game, but I do know the controversy surrounding it. From what I've seen, everything about this game is terrible, from the characters to the jokes, but the worst thing about it is the plot. For those who don't know, the characters find this crystal thing that has the ability to bring anyone back from the dead, meaning anyone who has died in the series, such as Roland, Maya and Handsome Jack, could be brought back to life for Borderlands 4. As much as I'd love to see Maya again, this to me is just a terrible idea, because now if anyone dies it doesn't even matter, because they can just be brought back to life, which leads me onto my next point. Handsome Jack was an amazing villain in Borderlands 2, and even seeing his origin story in Borderlands the pre-sequel was great. Even to this day I can play through Borderlands 2 and I won't get bored of Handsome Jack being there. However, with that said, overdoing something good can eventually become stale, which is exactly what I fear of happening. Because like I just said, there is a crystal that could potentially bring Handsome Jack back to life. but this will honestly be a disaster if Gearbox chooses to do this. I know Jack will always be a part of the series in some aspect. The impact of his actions on everyone will just not fade, and this is understandable. It's okay for his name to be mentioned here and there, but he absolutely does not need to be brought back physically into the series. 99% of the community are wanting for something new and fresh, but it seems that the higher ups at Gearbox are struggling to let go of the past, instead of being creative in cooking up a new good villain. Gearbox honestly didn't even need to make the Handsome Jackpot DLC, but they just had to include Jack to some capacity. They literally could have done anything else. So if you have been keeping up with the ongoings of Gearbox, then you would probably know that Embracer Group, a Swedish video game and media holding company, purchased Gearbox back in 2021 for $1.3 billion. But then recently sold Gearbox to Take-Two Interactive, the parent company of Rockstar Games, as well as the publisher for the Borderlands series, 2K Games, for $460 million. This may be a good thing, but what worries me is that Take-Two Interactive only cares if a game makes money. For example, Red Dead Online didn't make them much money, and so that game hasn't received an update in almost 3 years. Their reasoning was because they wanted to focus on the GTA series instead, because that is obviously more profitable. So what worries me is that if Borderlands 4 doesn't succeed financially, then it may get the same treatment as Red Dead Online. Again, this is my opinion and I could be completely wrong, but anyway, let's move on. There have been rumours that Borderlands 4 will be on a live service model. For those who don't know, a live service game is when you pay for a game full price, but then you have a constant flow of updates for years to come. When first hearing that, it sounds great, but there are actually more negatives than positives. Firstly, live service games are run on a server, and so when the game stops making as much money, it will cause the company to shut down the server because they are no longer making profit. This means that if Borderlands 4 does go live service, we may not be able to play it 10 years down the line like we do with the current Borderlands games. Secondly, live service games are rushed out the door, releasing in a buggy and incomplete mess, which will just cause even more problems. It is honestly shameful how many gaming companies think it's normal and okay to release games again and again in an unfinished state. Thirdly, live service games are riddled with microtransactions, which usually are only used for cosmetics, but can sometimes actually push for a pay to win or pay to skip model instead. Now, only being able to buy cosmetics is a good thing, right? Well, actually no. If a company begins to make millions and millions from just microtransactions, then there is no real need to make good DLCs in their mind. Instead, they will more likely make lazy, short and unoriginal free content that will keep us busy for a few hours. Finally, live service games always want to give you a reason to log in every day. This can be done in many ways, such as daily challenges or a battle pass to complete in a certain time. This can make a game begin to feel more of a job rather than a game, which completely gets rid of the point of what a game is for. And finally, the last point I'm going to briefly mention is that the community is currently split in half. Well, at least it feels like it. I don't want to get too much into this because it does involve people in the community, and I'm not the type of person to get into drama. But with that said, it is honestly a shame to see the community the way it is. The Borderlands community used to be one of the best in gaming. What I mean by that is that there was rarely any animosity or toxicity between members of the Borderlands fans. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about this, as I do not want to get dragged into anything, but my point is, I'm hoping Borderlands 4 will bring most of the community back to the series. So thank you for watching this brief video on the state of the Borderlands series. I'm sure there are even more reasons as to why it's in such a bad state, so if you have any more then please comment down them below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.